I'm Zoe Delahunty-Light, and if you get a bit of deja vu when you see Millicent, there's a good reason why. With her red hair, missing arm and rot affliction, she's awfully similar to Malenia, child of Radagon and Marika, and Blade of Mikola. Millicent is part of Malenia. Born in the swamp of Aeonia like her sisters, from what I've read and researched, I'm of the opinion that she's a spore that sprung forth from Malenia's Scarlet Aeonia, unleashed at the Battle of Caelid against her half-brother Radahn, born and grown into her own person that still yearns for her other part. A shamshir is Millicent's weapon of choice and, just like Malenia, she unleashes the waterfowl dance to devastating effect. But that's not how we initially know Millicent. Cowering and suffering in the Church of the Plague, initially, Millicent is a sorry sight. Ravaged with the scarlet rot, she can barely talk to the Tarnished. It's only when the Tarnished finds Sage Gowry on the outskirts of Celia that Millicent's life changes. Gowry raised Millicent from when she was a baby, when she was found in the swamp of Aeonia.
She is one of my dear daughters, but the rotting sickness erodes one's memory. I doubt that she remembers the first thing about me. Oh, I must be getting old. I didn't always worry so much.
Or so he says. He also says that he was a great sage in his day, and I think my tone says a lot about just how trustworthy / manipulative I think Gowri is. I will concede that he's wearing sage vestments, which are described as belonging to wise sages who were deemed heretical and driven from town, but anyone can put on some clothes, and Gowri is not what he seems. Gowri isn't alone in his shack. Pleading for the Tarnished's help, he directs the Tarnished to Millicent in the Church of the Plague and comments that she's
tended to by the witless pests who worship her, or rather her rotting sickness, as a god. A wretched fate, indeed. The poor girl, she never wished for any of this.
To aid Millicent, the Tarnished has to seek out Commander O'Neill in the Swamp of Aeonia and retrieve his unalloyed golden needle. Commander O'Neill is no seamstress, though. One of Malenia's commanders, he remains in Caelid's Swamp of Aeonia in the remnants of the battlefield. This unalloyed golden needle was given to him to prevent Malenia's rot from infecting him during the Battle of Caelid, and still it remains in his flesh. It's the unalloyed gold needle that prevents Commander O'Neill from succumbing to the rot that's infesting the battlefield, yet he is able to summon rotted winds when fought, implying that not even the needle is enough to prevent O'Neill from falling to rot, given just how long he spent in Caelid. Upon pulling the needle from the commander's flesh, its description reads, "An intricately crafted needle of unalloyed gold snapped in half. A ritual implement crafted to ward away the meddling of the outer gods, it is thought capable of forestalling the incurable rotting sickness. Sage Gowri has designs for this needle." And he does. Fixing it when brought to him as requested, he reveals that the needle is destined for Millicent's rotting flesh next, to mitigate the rot infesting her veins. Presented with this needle, Millicent doesn't really have much to lose.
I would rather trust you than simply continue to spoil from within.
No sooner is it inserted into her flesh than she passes out, but given time she comes back to her senses and remarks that,
"Since inserting the needle, the scarlet rot has ceased to writhe. Even the nightmares have abated."
What those nightmares are, I don't know for sure. However, considering I think Millicent is part of Malenia, I'd warrant their dim recollections of her days on the battlefield or Malenia's childhood, spent with her limbs rotting, the pressure of being an Empyrean, and a brother who never ages by her side. Millicent, her name and memories returning to her, sets off on a journey to find out where she came from. Following in Malenia's footsteps, she traces her to the Halig Tree, where her journey would end. Gowri had designs for the needle, but he also has designs for Millicent. He calls Malenia her mother, but don't be fooled. Despite allegedly raising her with a paternal love, and Millicent does appear to remember Gowry, Gowry is using Millicent. He doesn't care for her as an individual in the slightest. Everything he asks you to do for Millicent is all in pursuit of her transforming into a Valkyrie, whether Millicent wants to or not. Valkyries are warriors that serve the goddess of rot. Upon the death of their human bodies, they turn into flowers akin to Malenia's Scarlet Aeonia. When their flower blooms, they emerge as Valkyries, terrifying and powerful. Millicent's prosthesis, which can only be obtained upon the Tarnished slaying her, reads, "The despair of sweet betrayal transformed Millicent from a mere bud into a magnificent flower, and one day she will be reborn as a beautiful Scarlet Valkyrie." Sadistically, being slain by someone you trust and dying while feeling such intense betrayal makes Valkyries even more powerful when they bloom, which is why Gowry wants the Tarnished to save and befriend Millicent, only to eventually slay her. There should be no doubt in your mind about Gowry's intentions. He says,
"Oh, Millicent, she is a bud, green and undeveloped, waiting to flower into magnificence. What a wondrous day that will be. In truth, before her, I'd never seen a bud of such superior quality. She might very well outshine her sisters."
Mary, Maureen, Amy and Pollyanna are those sisters Gowry speaks of. Like Millicent, I believe they are aspects of Malenia, fractured from her when she unleashed her Scarlet Aeonia against Radahn. Born in the swamp of Aeonia like Millicent, Gowry brought them to the Haligtree near Malenia as she awaits Miquella, and there they lay in wait for Millicent. Gowry knows Millicent is the strongest of them all, hence requiring all four of them to vanquish her. With the Tarnished by her side, Millicent defeats her sisters, and on their bodies is found the rotten winged sword insignia that confirms they intended to become Valkyries. It reads that this talisman is an honour bestowed upon the Valkyries who serve the goddess of rot, and yet they were doomed never to blossom. I assume that last section means that Millicent killed them before they could become fully fledged Valkyries, but I'm honestly not sure because of something I'll mention in a bit. Just let me know in the comments how you interpret that line. I'm not sure whether the sisters were Valkyries or never became Valkyries because we have conflicting evidence on either side. On one hand, the description says that they never bloomed into Valkyries. On the other, Malenia, in her rock goddess form, sends 4 Valkyries after you, Mary, Maureen, Amy and Pollyanna having been reunited with her in death. Yet Malenia lacks 1/5 of her health upon her transformation. That missing 1/5, I believe, is Millicent. Should the Tarnished refuse to kill her, meaning she never became a Valkyrie, Malenia would never be reunited with that 5th and final aspect of her selfhood. Okay, so why would Gowry want so badly for Millicent to become a Valkyrie, especially when it involves killing her and he claims to have raised her, so he must love her in some way? Because Gowry is not what he seems. Should the Tarnished slay him in his shack, instead of a humanoid body falling to the floor, a kindred of rot appears.
Meet again, you and I. There are countless beasts to choose from.
Gowry is merely puppeting these bodies from afar, overtly mocking the Tarnished for thinking they could kill him. Deep in the lake of rot lies the god of rot, trapped below its seething decay by the blind warrior and their waterfall dance long ago. I think Gowry is the voice of that god of rot, unable to manifest in the world, and so relies on puppeting kindred of rot and illusions to awaken the goddess of rot and the age of rot with her. The kindred of rot are servants of the goddess of rot, go watch my video on Malenia to learn more about the Scarlet Rot, who call themselves the unwanted children. Upon finding out Millicent chose to die, Gowry laments,
Would you disown us too? as your mother did. We children of the Scarlet Rot.
That makes it sound like he's a kindred of rot, but I'm not sure about that. Unless there's some creature we don't know of who can puppet their bodies. Or Gowry's some kind of incredibly powerful kindred of rot, but again, I'm really not sure. Millicent knows that she's the same as Malenia, but precisely how eludes her. She does know, however, that she must return something to Malenia.
The will that was once her own. The dignity. The sense of self. That allowed her to resist the call of the Scarlet Rot. The pride she abandoned. To meet Radahn's measure.
To me, this strengthens the supposition that Millicent is part of Malenia, and knows that without her, Malenia lacks a part of her identity. That dignity she abandoned in order to unleash the Scarlet Rot and vanquish her half-brother. Millicent's death is bittersweet. After removing the golden needle from her flesh, she perishes, but she got the chance to live not as a pawn of Gowry, not as a part of Malenia, but as herself.
With your help, I was able to live as my own person. If only in passing. That if I am to flower into something other than myself, I would rather rot into nothingness as I am.
Retrieving the unalloyed gold needle from Millicent reveals that its description has changed. It now reads, removed by Millicent from her flesh, bears no trace of befouled blood, but is faintly moist with dew. With no blood on the needle, it appears Millicent was never quite human. She was always this strange shadow of Malenia, perhaps part spore, part rot, part Aeonian flower, but with a will of her own until the very end. That's Malenia's complete story, along with how Gowry tried, and I hope failed in your playthrough, to manipulate her into becoming a Scarlet Valkyrie. If that wasn't enough for you and you've not yet got your fill of Elden Ring lore, check out the pinned comment where you'll find my Elden Ring lore playlist. What do you think of all of this? Is Gowry the imprisoned god of rot? Were Millicent's sisters already Valkyries, and does that chunk of Malenia's missing health represent Millicent? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, thanks very much, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Eurogamer as we have a new video out almost every single day. Now, I'm going to go and extinguish Gowry's light as many times as I want because I think he is a colossally bad person, so I'll see you lot next time.